Librans, this is Annette with Annette's Astrology Corner, and this is your energetic reading for June 2016. Initially in June, when your ruler is in Gemini, and we have this big Sun conjunction in Gemini. We have this new moon event that also happens with your ruler in conjunct of it. So we have a pretty big beginning of the month. Your ruler is trying to get you to expand the way that you look at things and really take a look at the big picture. This has to do with a very elevated perspective. This can't be anything that's very simple at all. So your mind, I think, during this month is going to be torn between this immediate environment, your immediate interpretations, and then the big picture regarding what you're going to be going through. And then Venus drops into Cancer from about the 17th until the end of the month. And this is going to bring you, it's going to flood you with a lot of emotion about what you feel, what you need to feel safe and nurtured, and to feel, it brings forth a lot of uncomfortable emotions. You know, usually when Venus goes into Cancer, you know, you're very kind of an emotionally disconnected. You look kind of you're very logical about love and what you need and you want from it. But this is going to fill you with some depth. This is going to be a very highly emotional aspect for you. So I'd like to look at what your ruler is doing throughout the month. From the 1st through the 10th, Venus in Gemini is going to oppose Saturn, square off with the North Node, square off with Jupiter, and square off with Neptune, and that's because it is involved in a grand mutable cross. So what this energy from the 1st to the 10th is trying to get you to understand is that you need to take a look at things internally. This is a deeply psychological time for you. This is something that you have to take a look at it, and you have to take a look at it kind of from a different perspective. This has to do with the elevated mind. So your ruler is really trying to elevate your consciousness at this point, really trying to elevate your thoughts, really trying to get you to look at the big picture. At the same time, Saturn is kind of pulling you into the past and helping you realize that habitually you keep being involved in situations, or you perhaps idealize situations, or you don't have a realistic perspective of the discipline or the structure or that day-to-day environment. There's something amiss in your day-to-day environment that does not support the elevated perspective. And so you're going to be torn to figure this out. This has to do with your daily rituals, your routines, your health habits. This could be physical and mental. So this has to do with a lot of discipline in those areas. It has to do with the reality of the situation first and foremost. You tend, especially when Venus is conjunct with the Sun, you tend to get very idealistic about what pleases you, and you can get carried away in this energy, and it can be incredibly superficial. And your ruler is being compelled to have you take a look at two sides of that situation. Yes, it pleases you. Yes, you deserve it. Yes, yes, it's a very decadent time for your senses to be fulfilled, but then there's this desire, this need for something more. It has to connect with you on a very elevated perspective for you to be really engaged. Otherwise, as superficial as it is, you're just going to be bored and restless and non-fulfilled, and you're going to go through people and situations, and you're going to go through conversations, and they're not going to have enough content for you to feel satisfied. You're hungry. You're hungry for a specific thing in your life, and you may not even understand what you're hungry for, but you're ravenous at this point. And I believe what it does is you try to be very superficial about this, because if you're taking a look at it logically, it could just mean that you need more intimacy, or that you could need more pleasure, or that you could need more fun, and but you do that, and then it's short-lived, and then you're back to starving again for something deeper than this. I deeply feel in this energy, that's what the mutable cross is about for you. I believe that from the 4th through the 8th, Venus in Gemini is going to be quincunxing Pluto. So it's hard to take a look at this from an elevated perspective when what you're going off is past programming. You know, this has been a karmic journey for a long time. You may have learned this from a very young age to be very superficial and shallow with your expectations. Am I calling you a shallow person? No. What I'm saying is that in this type of energy, you can feel like it's logical and rational to be fed on a very superficial level what you desire, but what you're gonna taste as you're doing that, as you become this little decadent creature and as you go through this grand mutable cross, you're gonna understand that's not what you need to taste right now. That's not what your senses are craving at this point. I think from the 5th to the 21st, Venus in Gemini is going, and it's also going to jump into Cancer at some point during this transit. It's going to square off with Chiron. So what this is trying to do is point you in the right direction. And this is a karmic direction. This has to do with a wound that you have been brought into this world with, and you've been carrying around your whole life. And this is a very difficult realization because of this grand mutable cross. And you're going to feel this. When the energy drops into Cancer, you're going to feel this situation. And you're going to feel intuitively guided to make some different choices. Because I think that the superficial desires are not going to cut it. I think from the 7th through the 16th, Venus in Gemini is going to have a sextile with Uranus and Aries. So guys, I love this energy. What you're trying to do is be recognized as this strong, confident individual that has some sort of leadership qualities that is trying to break free. And in relationships and bonds, you really want to be understood. It's really important for you to be understood. And so you're going to really externalize a lot of your individuality during this time. And you're going to feel very aligned to do so. And then from the 11th through the 15th, Venus in Gemini is going to quincunx Mars. This has everything to do with realigning what you value. So in the past, you may have valued something that was somewhat superficial or was it didn't have longevity to it, what you valued. It was very in the moment, or it was very on a day-to-day level. But this is something that you are trying to have. The situation is intensifying, I think, by the time you get here about what you want and what you value. I think the realization is you're starting to figure it out. You're starting to figure out what you've been craving this entire time. From the 19th at the end of the month, Venus in Gemini is going to trine Neptune and Pisces. And then I think when this trine happens, I think what really happens is you start to have the realization that what your elevated mind needs, you need to start creating rituals and routines to support it. You need to be fed continuously. This can't be just on intermittent levels. It can't be in snacks. Like, you got to be fed a consistent source of nutrition, I think, is the way that I feel in this energy. Now, on the 4th, we're going to have a new moon in Gemini. It's going to be conjunct with Venus in Gemini. This is going to really elevate your consciousness through some opposition. So sometimes what it takes is for you to go through something of severe opposition, for you to take a look at the pros and cons of everything, and for you to say, okay, so this is pulling me in all these different directions. I need to take a look at why. Like, you're very intellectual in this energy. You're very deeply aligned with all this air energy. But you know, your ruler is squaring off with Saturn. It's opposing Saturn. It's squaring off with the North Node, squaring off with Jupiter, squaring off with Neptune, and in a quincunx with Pluto. So this is about breaking free from past programming that no longer serves you. This is about disciplining your thoughts or disciplining your routines. And this could be mental routines. This could be the way that you mentally replay messages to yourself. This could be, I feel deeply compelled to tell you that I feel like this has to do with your thoughts. On a very elevated perspective, you have to consider the past and the repetitive cycles of the past. You have to consider, you have to consider your routines and rituals, like those habits that you have with your thoughts. And then you have to consider some past programming along with this. And I think that would help clarify some of this. On the 6th, Venus in Gemini will align with the Sun in Gemini. This is a very big moment for you. This is a very expansive moment for you. This is, of course, in that grand mutable cross. So you are still intellectually being expanded. And so what's coming forth in this energy is when Venus and the Sun align, when your desires and what you deeply want and need on a very intellectual, stimulating level. Like, this has to appeal to your thoughts. You have this, to me, I think of counseling, or I think of long conversations about setting forth routines and rituals that support health and good communication. This is like, okay, every Sunday you and I are going to sit down and have a talk. We're going to talk about things. Or this is a communicating effectively. That you're not being understood, or you're not understanding some of your own habitual patterns. And so when the Sun and Venus align, what I think that it does is it aligns your desire to be understood, your desire to be mentally stimulated with pleasure. So this isn't about these superficial, mindless situations in your life that don't feed you on a very highly elevated intellectual level. You need to be fed. You are growing in this energy, and the type of food that you need to be fed is very different than it used to be. And those, karmic patterns. And then on the 17th, Venus moves into Cancer. I believe that this is where we start to feel guided intuitively about some of the choices that we need to make. It's not so rational and logical as it is about, I'm being intuitively guided to make these decisions, and it's auto-correcting my path and my thoughts. Again, this has everything to do with intensifying what you value. You have to intensely feel guided to make some of these decisions. This intensity is going to be a little off-putting, because when this energy when the transition happens, it's going to be your ruler is going to be quincunxing Scorpio energy. So there's an intensity to this emotional situation that you're going to be feeling. This, of course, is to karmically, you've been, in the past, I think you were almost karmically wounding yourself, or keeping the wound open, or not attending to the wound. I think in this energy, you're starting to heal that wound and close that wound, to have respect for the wound and move away from the wound in this energy. But you have to elevate your mind in order to do that. So one of the things I find very interesting is when Venus is in Cancer, it will be conjunct with the Sun in Gemini. So there will have to be logic and intuition will have to meet in this energy, and it will autocorrect your path. On the 20th, we have a full moon in Sagittarius. This will be a second full moon. The first moon was in May. The second full moon is going to be in June. So this is a very big, significant full moon. And this will have everything to do with the way that you think on a day-to-day basis. There is an accumulative ending to this energy. I think you figure out the path that you need to go on. You are very intuitively guided. It is their logic, your elevated mind, and your intuition are all going to be pointing you in a very, very specific direction. This is going to be in oppositions. Your ruler is going to be in opposition with this event. So I think because there's such a highly emotionally intuitive content to this, and then we have this, this Sagittarian-based elevated mindset, sometimes it's going to be hard to merge your intuition with the logic And then to discipline yourself on a day-to-day level, that's going to take a little bit of a challenge. This is, of course, to set up powerful rituals and routines. So if you get the theme of this, this is about epiphanies this month, and it's about setting up routines and rituals that support the health, the mental well-being, the elevated mindset and the lower mindset. Like, you have to merge these two, and it has to be consistent, and it has to be on a day-to-day basis. You're being intuitively guided to see something on a much more elevated level this month. Anyhow, guys, thank you so much for watching Annette's Astrology Corner, and I look forward to talking to you guys again next